Running Sentences presents Pirates, Politics, and Potentially Treasure, Book 1, Part 1, Unwanted Discoveries. Pirate Captain Cordite Mercury finds himself on the hunt for one last haul of treasure out in space before retiring for good. Things never quite go how he wants them to, though. This story is written and narrated by Michael Honnery. This is a work of fiction. Any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real or fictional characters, businesses, events, situations is purely coincidental. Copyright 2023, Michael Honnery. All rights reserved. Alright, so this story, Pirates, Politics, and Potentially Treasure, has, as a result of my story writing, been split into 2 books. The first book, will contain 11 episodes and will run from July to September. And then, because it's only 11 episodes, there will be a short break with the short story and the introduction of Season 4, ending out September the last 2 weeks, with the 4th season launching. Book 2 of Pirates, Politics, and Potentially Treasure will commence, and it will finish off what is left of the story that I want to tell. So thanks, and enjoy the story. The asteroid field around them was a pretty sight to stare at from the ship's bridge. The helmsman was deft in their moving through the narrow space as they closed towards their intended target beyond it in a space field. Cordite was watching the windows for any sign when he felt a tug on his arm and looked over to see his first mate, Lion, pointing to a screen. "Oh, we're picking up a distress signal from a nearby asteroid." The towering figure and body of the first mate made it hard to see the monitor, and he moved his meaty hand to show the screen, where a small bleep kept appearing. "What are we doing about this? What are they doing out here?" "Trap, maybe." "Other pirates, you mean?" Well, it's a bit odd for Captain Zoll to challenge you to retrieve goods from a guarded ship that was reportedly abandoned just beyond these asteroids." "Well, yes, it's a bit weird. We'll have to carefully get closer. Rules of space dictate that we have to make an effort to help them out, right? Helm, you can see the signal on your screen. Steer us towards that if you will." The ship began to move, its center of gravity shifting to pointing off towards the right. A few asteroids came and went from view as they moved continuously towards this bleeping signal. After a few minutes passed, a small-looking ship came into view, nestled against one of the asteroids. It might not have been completely against it, but at first appearances it was there. "Raise the radio communication link, please." "As you wish. Link being sent out to connect to the ship." The chipper computer, which had responded, dropped a small screen down in front of Cordite. The small cabin that was the bridge could only hold 4 people on a good day, and felt even more cramped with this screen out. There was far too much gear and tech that had once been thought of as a good idea and then left where it had been put when it didn't work out. "Distress Signal Alpha 343, this is the Flying Concubine. We are privateer private ship. We have your signal. Can you hear or reply to us?" There was static on the screen as it tried to connect to the other ship. Can we launch our pod towards it? We need a better sightline on this ship, and we need eyes on it." "It will be so, sir." The big man turned and hit a few buttons on a nearby screen. A few seconds passed before there was a soft shake of the cabin as an object went off of their big boat and hurrying its way forward, passing by the window as it went. The little pod attached with its camera raced to its target and applied its air brakes before getting too close to it. The camera aboard it focused in on the vessel, which looked quite damaged. The black burn marks covered the exterior of this pod ship, and there was a segment that looked like it was missing from it. There were a few lights from what windows appeared there, but no apparent aliens or humans. Lion and Cordite studied the image as best they could as they came in. "Are we going over there?" "Unfortunately, yeah. Pick your poison from the crew and make sure they're armed. No risks." "There are always risks." Yes, but don't go over there and cause yourself to make some risky choices. We only need to make sure the call was responded to. Always risky. The ship's pod, containing Lion and a few crew members, slowed as it approached the airlock hatch of this escape pod. It lined up, and the ship would connect a second later with a hiss. Lion, Gapper, Slam, and Plate all stood prepared with rifles and plasma guns at the ready. The door opened as they all made a final check of their suits to keep them safe. The four bounded into a hallway, looking this way and that, weapons at the ready for any sign of activity. The escape pod of the ship was a rather luxurious-looking one that didn't have anything floating in it, so it had a vacuum of gravity apparently still going on. All systems appear operational. The pod is damaged, but all areas that had problems appear to be locked down. It will make getting around a little difficult from what I can tell. The suit's computer was one of the few good items that they'd ever managed to steal and install. Lion was grateful for this, as the group stepped to the right of the hallway. Suits, stay on. Everyone keep a watchful eye. I have interfaced with this pod's computer, and there are signs of life in the bridge area. You will need to take the next left at the hallway intersection. Since they hooked up the suit to communicate with all the other ones in the unit, there was no need to say anything, as they already knew what was going on. The turn to the left came up, and to the left they went, covering for one another with carefully aimed rifles going every direction. The bridge of the ship was a blaze of warning beeps and signals, all of which Nero was trying to silence as best he could. His sister was curled into a ball on a nearby chair, trying to block out all of the noise. Intruder alert! Yes, I already know. Shut up. It's either this or that, or the engines won't work, or that's all you'll ever tell me about, you stupid computer. Make it stop, Nero. I am trying to do that, Tulis, but it won't let me. Engine malfunction in the right and left engines. Able to continue powering the craft for 12 days in cyclical time. What does that even mean? Intruders at the door to the bridge. Brace, brace. This was followed by a loud bang. Debris and smoke filled the room as Nero spun about, while reaching for whatever he could find to use as a weapon. His hands came up empty, as four odd-looking soldiers came into the room, weapons at the ready. They did not appear to be regular soldiers, or, unfortunately, not groggy and naval troops either. Pirates! What? The young woman jumped to her feet, and was already clambering towards the front of the bridge to try and get away. That did not provide much room, and it only held a window looking out into space. You're the ones sending the distress signal? Tulis stopped clambering towards the front and looked over at them curiously. Our signal is out there. The ship kept saying it was too weak. The guns were slowly lowered by the group in their spacesuits. That didn't stop Nero, as he had continued his search for something to help protect himself and his sister. Who are you and what you, and how did you find us? Answer us that, pirates! The pirates began to raise their weapons again. We were passing through the field of asteroids and saw that signal. A captain sent a message, but no response was heard. We're here to find survivors. As per the credo, the ships that travel space must help one another. Seeming to have lost her scaredness, Tulis moved forward towards the soldiers. A move that made Nero nervous, since he knew his sister's proclivity towards dangerous situations. Anything and everything that put her life on the line was worth exploring at some point. Her strut of a walk took on an exotic look as she went towards them. It took him a moment before he could get in front of his sister to try and stop anything further. What do you want with us? Yes, tell us, what do you want with us? You're to come back to the ship, and then the captain will decide. And if we don't want that kind of thing, it seems like being out here on this ship is a better chance of survival than with some pirate-looking mugs. And don't claim you aren't pirates. Your patchwork suits and guns give you away. There was the sound of a hiss and a ptong that happened quickly, way too quickly, for Nero to react. A soft substance slapped into his chest and sent a shock through him and pitched everything into bleak blackness. Before he did pass out, though, he noted that his sister seemed to have suffered a similar, if not the same exact fate as he had. Cordite stood watching as the pod docked with them. The message that Lion had sent was not a good one, that he'd recovered 2 people, but not much else. The last thing he needed was actually people coming aboard on this trip to salvage what was supposed to be a Royal Naval ship that had been attacked. Dr. Mott, the doctor for the crew, stood by, peering over his shoulders as she looked over at the airlock door. "Do you think they'll be okay?" Likely, yeah. They seemed to be alive and well when Lion found them, and that's what he said anyway. But who knows how a creature will react to being hit by goo? I've heard many reports of bad reactions once the target gets knocked out. To this, Cordite stepped to the side so that Mott was not hanging over his shoulder, and so that he could see her. This caught her off guard, and she almost moved to be behind him again when the airlock door hissed its way open. "Your guests have arrived. Take good care of them and keep them away from everything, if you would be so kind, Doc." There was little room for anything in this space, since the dock had set up 2 floating emergency beds right outside the airlock, and when Lion came through, he dumped an unconscious body on one of them, and then a female figure on the other bed. His crew then stepped through, carrying a few boxes of stuff and some new-looking weaponry as Mott gathered 2 of the crew members to help move the bed. These 2 regal-looking individuals with high cheekbones towards the doctor's ward. "The information aboard there was that that we could read looked like it belonged to the royal ship that was recently attacked." Lion said this as he approached Cordite, and the rest of the group, aside from Plate, had moved on. "That is not good to hear. When does our salvage license expire?" 2 days when we left port, running out by the time we left the wreck, if we could get to it on time." "Right, that was the plan. Now we are behind by 1,000,000 miles. And on our bet against Captain Zool." He nodded to Plate, who held up a piece of tech that they'd salvaged that looked much like a tablet. "What do you got, Plate?" "Captain's log for the ship and all that he was carrying, plus some passcodes that might make it easier to get around." "Alright, check it out fully. See what it has. Probably useless to us, but meanwhile, let's get to the edge of the asteroid field and see what we have. And cloak the damn ship, and see if we can still salvage some of this expedition. I don't want to be spotted by the naked eye." The 2 patients were quickly moved to the medical bay of the ship, a small subsection not far from the docking bay, and the beds were slid into the small rooms against the back wall. These rooms could act as prison cells should they need them, and they locked up tight, not allowing anyone out. Mott watched them get pushed in, and then the doors closed before nodding to the 2 crew members who had helped out. They departed without further word, while Mott began running her diagnostic tests to make sure these 2 passengers were healthy. She did this through a computer tablet, which warned her one of them was waking up. A second later, there was a bang against the door. "Let me out of here!" "No can do. You need to be tested to make sure you're healthy, and won't infect any of us with deadly germs from wherever you're from." "I am a prince. We get tested for all kinds of things all the time. The medical records we keep are tight, and we wouldn't be allowed anywhere near Capital Planet if that weren't the case." "It doesn't hurt to be safe, and you can't say that it is wrong to be extra safe, can you?" Her tablet began blinking a red color with a warning across it. Certain immunizations were apparently missing, according to the report. She glanced up to the window in the door that would allow her to look at the man. All she could do was shake her head and continue the test to see if the lady was similarly compromised. "I am Prince Nero of the Groggian Empire, and I demand my release." "No can do." The results for the female also blared red at the doc, who put the tablet down. Her mind raced as to what she needed to do. All of the crew would likely need protective shots just in case, but that might knock them out of action for a day. Her transponder beeped and she touched her ear to let the voice of the captain in. "We're approaching our set-off point to get close to the wreck. Is everything secure and okay down there? The computer says that the patients are infected. With what? Not entirely sure, since it isn't a virus or disease that I'm familiar with. Can we hold off for a few minutes on jumping to our next point? I'll see what I can do, but once we get better eyes outside of this asteroid field, at least make sure these things are secure for rapid movement. The end of the asteroid field greeted Cordite as he stared out the bridge window. Deep space sat before them, with a lot of nothingness. The radar blipped a few times, showing that there were a few things in the distance not quite visible yet to them. What have we got, radar? Signals of several ships far into our radar, probably more around what we're targeting. We've been beaten here, helmsman. What kind of signal do they emanate? Royal Grogian ship, sir. Cordite moved a few screens about until the right one was in front of him, allowing him to see the side of the radar. The little blips far off showed that there were ships around what appeared to be a debris field. Right, we're preparing for cloaking mode. We're going to get closer, but be ready for the signal at a moment's notice. Lion came shuffling in, pushing past to get to some controls. The feeling aboard the craft changed as a pulse shot through it. The gravity shut off to conserve engine power, and grabbing a hold of a metal bar, Cordite watched to see if any of these ships that they picked up on had noticed them yet, which had not appeared to have happened. Begin moving us towards the target ship, helmsman, and be careful. Yeah, I want it registered that this is a bad idea. Those look like frigates and big ship dots to me. Your intuition are just guesses, helmsman. I know dots when I see 'em. The answer did not satisfy Cordite, but he let it go. He trusted his crew to know these sorts of things. Proceed with care, then. Lion, how are our guns and missiles? They will work well when we are out of cloaking, but this old unit that we have fitted is sucking up all we can get. Cordite nodded. It's probably also giving off a nice heat signature, which, in that case, be ready for communication lines with whoever is in front of us, okay? There was a silent recognition of the order, as their vessel began its forward trajectory, keeping a low profile and slow towards the big ships that they could not yet see. Cordite hoped that it was a big salvage group that had come in before they could. If, though, it was a government navy, they might begin to shoot first upon seeing them. The hive of activity aboard the bridge of the Royal Grogian ship Hurt swirled about the place. The soldiers who manned their stations did so with a seriousness that felt robotic in nature. Captain Drought almost wished it wasn't that way with the crew, and that there was some liveliness to them, but at the same time they did their work, and they did it damned fast. He sat in his chair, overlooking the scene and wishing for something to do other than protect a wrecked ship that had been hit by a few asteroids. The government had not deemed to tell him why it was so important to guard this ship. At least he liked to pretend that was the case, and so there they sat, doing nothing. Sir, a soldier whose name he couldn't quite remember, other than it started with a K, had run up to him and saluted. There seemed to be some panic and nervousness to his face. Yes, what is it? Our radar has picked up 2 inbound vessels, one coming across the asteroid field and the other behind us. I see, and what is their markings? Salvage ships, but both have expiring contracts and such. What were they doing out here? This ship they were protecting shouldn't be known about yet, should it? The whole thing bothered him, and he looked out the bridge window trying to see these 2 ships. Neither appeared by the naked eye, so he pulled up a few floating screens that would show him information, and he could now make out both of them, although they appeared to be cloaked. But they were salvage ships. That was not a good sign, and so he began worrying. Communications exec, prepare to open lines to both ships. Weapons are hot. Make sure that other ships in the fleet are aware of what is going on. I'm sure they already have radar and everything up, but we're the lead ship, so be careful. There was a flurry of activity as he continued to watch the ships approach them. Neither of them made signs of slowing down or to take down their cloaking devices. Did they really think that they could sneak past? It would be foolish against a Royal Navy ship to do so. "Lines are open, but no response so far. I think they're waiting for you, sir." With a sigh, he took a deep breath and began speaking towards a screen that said Communications. "Ships approaching the fleet of the Royal Grogian Empire. We have spotted you and demand to know what you are doing. This part of space is currently blocked to all traffic." "Captain, I assume you know that such lies do not become you. Space is open to all per the charter of any countries that signed on to the Galactic Treaty. The Grogian Empire is one of those founders of that document. You cannot block us from moving through." "We know the rules of space, Captain Drought. We have our rights in space, and you are far away from where you have any area of rights." Two smart captains. That was not a good sign, but the ships still shouldn't know about this wreck, and yet they were approaching it. The wreck was maybe a couple of days old. Why would pirates know about it? "Sir, both ships are locked on to. Any orders?" "Hold your fire for now." The weapons exec, who asked for permission to fire, merely nodded. "Pirates, or whatever you are, if you do not uncloak your ships, I will be forced to declare you an enemy of the Grogian Empire. We will fire." "And create an international incident. Oh, I am under the protectorate of the Fire group of planets. They don't like people messing with their ships, so if you're going to fire, you have been forewarned." Drought grunted, because he did not like that news, but it didn't matter. Pirates were pirates, and they would need to be dealt with. "Final warning, gunners on all ships prepare to fire." The ship in front of them slowly began to become visible, its rusted hull showing off a ship that had seen a lot. It looked like many salvage ships that occupied mostly empty asteroids and planets that dealt with scrapping. Seeing it, Drought tried to go over his memory to see if he knew it, but there was nothing there. "The other ship is also uncloaking, sir." "Damn, hold your weapons for now, weapons exec." As the cloak went down, Cordite ordered his ship to slow and then watched for any signs of activity. The big guns on any of the Empire ships could make quick work of them if they moved, even a little bit out of the way. Sitting there wasn't a great option, but at this point he didn't have much choice. "Sir!" "Yeah, Lion, what do you want?" "The escapees on the pod and all the records we found were Grogian. It's a chance to say we found these people and saw their ships. We were doing the right thing and setting the potential people free. You know, following the space accord." Cordite looked to his second-in-command with admiration. It was a good idea, better than what he was thinking of, which was reverse and get the fuck out of there. But there was still a question of how he would get the Grogian naval forces to listen to him when he had to tell them this. "Is the communication line still open?" "Yeah." With a nod, Cordite moved the screen so that it was before him. "A flagship of the Grogian Empire, if you fire on us, you will severely regret it." "And why is that, Captain of the Flying Concubine? Terrible name for a ship, by the way, and a terrible captain you are." "Well, I inherited this ship with the promise not to change the name, so not much I can do about that. Anyway, my comment, though, is directed towards the fact that we have 2 passengers aboard. Both came from a recently wrecked ship via escape pod not far from here. They may be yours, or they may have been passengers aboard that ship. I don't know. I didn't get that information. We merely rescued them from an escape pod." A silence returned from the line that went on and on. Cordite moved the screen away so that he wouldn't be heard speaking across the channel. "Line, check on the doctor and those 2 that we found. Also double and triple check that stuff you found is Grogian and that it contains any information that's interesting. Probably not, but, go and do it anyway, okay?" And there was a nod from his man who shuffled out of the room. Cordite sat back. waiting for further word from the naval ships. Their silence was bothersome, and he signaled his helmsman to begin backing the ship up slowly. "Cordite, has the Navy broken communication with you?" "Yes, Zol, they appear to have done that. I communicated that we may have something of theirs, and the line went dead. Be prepared for anything." "Our bet is still on, though, right?" No. I mean, if we survive, sure, but, I think you're not getting past those naval ships to do whatever you want." There was a cackle of laughter from his fellow pirate captain as the line went dead to that ship. The waiting was back on, and all they could do was stare at the windows and screens to see what was up. "Sir, small flying drone locked onto us from the Navy ship in the lead. It looks to be flying right towards us. Response?" "Hold steady. Probably a drone to get a better image of our ship and see if they can ascertain, through heat signature, about how many are aboard or whatever. Might also give them knowledge about us. Nothing we can do but watch and activate the close defenses. But don't fire. They won't risk getting too close at the moment, and probably will shoot at us if we shoot at that drone." They watched as it did approach, but stayed a small distance away from them, just out of range of their close-range guns. Cordite was quick to get the screen up to see if the ship could identify it. There's plenty of imposters out there in space who always let little details slip by. The screen in front of his face spit out what little was known about this investigative pod, which was unfortunately very little. The origin of it was known to be Groggian, though, so he gave it that, and he switched screens back to the communications were open between the two ships. "Captain of the Groggian ship, do you have a response, if you are who you claim to be?" "I am who I claim to be. No need to verify with you, though." "No, I guess you don't. Not if you're from the Navy you claim to be from." "Listen, we just have 2 people here who we have rescued, and we're going to go to a port now and drop them off. Or you can verify them for yourselves and take them. Aren't navies much better at taking care of lost strangers in space that were aboard their ships?" Another silence followed, which annoyed Cordite. He was trying to do his best to get out of this situation, but there was no cooperation. "Helm, burn fast in reverse for 5 seconds. "Are we cloaking again, sir?" "Not yet. I want them to see us moving back." Captain Zull watched the flying concubine do its reverse burn with curiosity. It made no sense, though he had heard all of the calls to the Groggian ship. It could only mean that they were giving up the chase, which was good, and they would be able to swoop in and steal whatever else was left aboard that crashed-out frigate. But he was hoping to use those maggots to get past the Navy. "Second in command, what's your take on all of this?" "Not much going for it, sir. I think we should boot and jump out of here." "Leave the concubine to her fate, to face it all alone? You don't think it's worth trying to get some salvage done?" "Aye, before they can do it to us, sir. We don't really have the defensive capabilities to really get past them and salvage and then get out of here." "Pity. There were rumors of gold and hostages to be taken aboard that ship." "Helm, plot a course for Port Clab and then activate the shields." The captain then reached for a nearby switch that would allow him to speak to his entire ship. "All hear this. We're headed out via jump. No salvage. Brace against whatever you got, since we have to get past the asteroid field first. We're headed to Clab at full speed." There was a soft red light that flickered on for a few seconds in the bridge as things were prepared. "We are cloaking. Jump to commence in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cordite watched his radar screen and saw the blip of Zul's ship disappear. He had a sinking feeling that his fellow pirate had jumped away and left him to deal with this all alone. "Lion, is anything working on this ship that will help protect us?" "Well, the self-defense system will work wonders, but only for so long. Other than that, we could try and jump ourselves. The drive is operational, though where it would drop us off I'm not sure of." It's a bad idea to jump right now. If this captain really is Navy, they already know so much about us. Plus, we said we had rescuees aboard. Though, jump might be nice, but it would only be a matter of time before they caught up to us again. Cordite's thoughts were going a mile a minute as he said this, and trying to figure out some solution. We could abandon and sell the ship once we land somewhere safe, though. We can jump pretty close to planets. The captain, though, was busy tangling with the slightly frozen screen that would allow communications between the ships. It was flickering and showed signs of life, but like everything aboard this ship, it chose when it wanted to work and when it wanted to just give problems. Captain of the Grogian Navy, this is our final request to know what you want to do with our passengers. We will be leaving this space zone in 5 minutes. What are the names of the people aboard? Lion was handling a tablet dealing with the ship's information, and he moved quick to get to the doctor's screen to see if the names had been posted by Mott. They had, so in an instant he was by the captain and whispered their names to him. They gave the names of Nero and Tulis, apparently. No other names were given by them. Princess? Something like that. That's the only information that was supplied by the claim of the Grogian Empire citizens, I guess. May I see them? No, you may not. They will be loaded onto our pod and ferried over to you. I can't accept that risk. It smells like a pirate trap to me. Then send the ship halfway and our pod will meet it. We can do the transfer through the cold of space for all I care, but they will be moved to you if you want these people. And this will be an unarmed expedition? As long as yours is unarmed as well. Fine, let us do that then. A pod will be dispatched immediately, and we promise that no weapons will be pointed at you. Nor, for that matter, will any of our ships move about, as a sign of good faith. Agreed, then. The screen was then pushed out of his way by Cordite, who could only shake his head. This was not going to go well, he figured, and he bit his lip as he thought about what potentially he was walking himself into. Prepare the lost souls for the pod, unconscious and in cuffs, please. I'll go make the drop myself. But the second anything goes wrong, you guys jump, okay? Be ready to jump. His orders hung in the air as he moved to leave the bridge. The two that had been rescued sat firmly in chairs and cuffed into the transport pod. Cordite sat in the driver's chair, piloting the vehicle slowly towards the point agreed upon. Under caution of Dr. Mott, he was in a full suit to protect himself. He'd mostly agreed to wear it in case of an emergency. It would buy him a few minutes out in space, but probably not that much. There was a worry that those few moments would be unwanted, but he dealt that thought a blow as the pod ship from the Grogian Navy pulled up to his. The two vessels were soon connecting to one another, and with a sigh and a flick of a switch, Cordite turned off gravity so that he would be able to move the two much easier. The deep, comfy, squishy rug made no noise as Vic made his way around his office. It was the way the rich preferred things in the Grogian world, as everything catered to their whims. The rest of the area might be a bit dirty, but their feet must be comfortable. Here the space was kept clean since it was an official government building and the vice president's office. Growling at the latest news that had been delivered and that he was alone, Vic began moving about quickly. There were many details missing from his report, and worse, people. He had spent a lot of money to make sure that people got where they were supposed to go, and that they were at the end of a very bad result. The door had opened, and in slipped his second-in-command and one of the leaders of the Senate, Frog, who waved as he came in. "You have news. They are missing, and now have been found." "Oh, is that good or bad?" "It's bad if people discover things, Frog. Too much has gone on to let the world know what has happened lately." "How would that even happen, though?"
Vic was unpleased with this news and results and everything that was being told to him, as he stared at this mixed alien breed.
The frog was ignoring him and instead was enjoying the lush carpet. The only downside to living on this damn planet, everyone liked to walk and talk, perhaps since they generally tended to forget what they talked about. The galactic government are always looking for things to screech about. If they find out about our land, then we will never hear the end of it. Or maybe we will in a couple of months when they're onto something big, but we don't need that right now. What do you want to do about it, then?
Vic frowned as he thought about that.
We can't attack any more of our ships. That would raise a lot of eyebrows. No, I think the bounty would help confuse matters. After all, our navy tends to think everyone is a pirate and so attacks them for being near them, if the ship attacks back. Oh, I see. Yes, I can post that at once when I leave. But it will be but a moment. What should I say, and how much are you offering to increase the bounty by?
The vice president, who was still pacing about, enjoying the simple pleasure of walking on a rug, finally came to a stop. He was deep in thought, but grinned. It was a delicious idea, and one that would cause chaos. But he would have to phrase it carefully so that it didn't link right back to him. Vic turned to his subordinate, who stood there with raised eyebrows, waiting for the orders.
Simple. 2 escaped prisoners named Nero and Tulis are aboard a Grogian ship. They have stolen cargo belonging to important parties. Delivery to the planet from High is requested. Payment of 100,000 marks in gold and silver and some precious gems, to be dropped off at the winner's market. Dead or alive. Preferably dead.
The frog looked like they were trying to memorize all of what had been told, and with a shake of his head at each word, and then wordlessly mouthing each one just to be extra safe, and with a final nod, they left the room. With much effort, Cordite wrestled the 2 figures into the connector tunnel between the 2 pods. There were soldiers on the far end, both with gun-looking objects in their hand.
Captain, I've got some interesting news.
Cordite raised his hand to his communicator in his ear.
Yeah, what is it, Lion? I'd advise you to get out of here right now, by the way. Those 2 have a fresh bounty put on their heads. It came over to the computer but a couple seconds ago.
That's nice, but get off the radio. They can probably hear us. Also, I'm not getting involved.
Not for 100,000 marks?
I would certainly change things, but I don't have much choice in what I'm doing right now, so I have to keep doing this. He pushed the male named Nero forward and began doing the same for the female, floating her towards the other craft, when he realized that she was awake. The 2 were already headed down the corridor, though, so his job was done. With a push, he made his way back towards his little pod ship, hoping to close the door and that nothing bad was about to happen to him. End of Book 1, Part 1 of Pirates, Politics, and Potentially Treasure. Thank you for listening.